So again, for question one, h of x equals f of x times g of x, as they said here. Find out which equation from here, or which two equations that represent f of x and g of x, so that when we multiply them, we get h of x, which is here. And tell me what strategy you used. So the best strategy to answer number one, as most of you did, is that instead of trying to go here and trying to figure out when you multiply them, are you going to get this or that, it's much faster and easier to just take the x squared minus 8x, which is h of x, plus 12, which is right here, and factor it. And that will give you x minus 4, x, hold on a second, x minus 6, x minus 2, because that multiplies to give you positive 12 and add to give you negative 8. And therefore, we choose the answer B. Now here they say f of x equals x plus 3 and g of x equals x squared minus 4. What's the domain of this composite function? So q of x equals f of x over g of x, and I'm given f of x and g of x. F of x is x plus 3, and g of x is x squared minus 4. Now this is a rational function, and rational functions, you get the domain from the bottom. So what we do, we just keep the top as is, we factor the bottom into x minus 2x plus 2. Now we know x cannot equal plus or minus 2, because positive 2 or negative 2 will give me 0 on the bottom, and we cannot have 0 on the bottom in a rational function. So the answer would have been D. Very good. Okay. Now I'm just going to erase all of this and go to the next question. Use the graph of f of x and g of x. What are the domain and range of y equals f of x minus g of x? Okay. The best way to do this is make a table of values. F of x, g of x, and the last thing, it'll be f of x minus g of x. Okay. Look for important points here. So for f of x, which is the line here, I could take a few points here, -6 and 8. So when x was -6, y was 8. I'm just looking at this point right here. And when x is -4, y was 6. And when x was -2, y was 4. And when x was 0, y is 2. Because they scale them by 2 here, by the way. Okay. And when x was 2, y was 0. And when x was 4, y is -2. Remember that they scale them by 2, right? That's -2 right there. G of x, when x is -6, you don't have anything. When x is -4, you don't have anything. But the domain for it starts at -2. When x is -2, y is 0. And when x is 2, y is when x is 0, y looks like it's 3. And when x is 2, y looks like it's 4. And when x is 4, y it looks like it's 5. Now f of x minus g of x, here 8 minus, we don't have anything, so there's nothing here. 6 minus, we don't have anything here, but here 4 minus 0 is 4. 2 minus 3 is -1. 0 minus 4 gives me -4. -2 and 5 gives me -7. Now I go here and I plot these points. I don't have anything in here. Why? Because there's no representation for the other graph. The other graph starts at -2, so that's the only place where we could plot these points. So I have -2 and 4 because you do the f of x minus g of x. So -2 and 4, which is right here. And then I have 0 and -1, 0 and -1, which is, oops. Yeah, so I'm scaling by 2. I forgot about that. 0 and -1 is right here. And then 2 and 0. 2 and 0 is going to be, sorry, that's 2 and -4. 2 and -4 is right here. And then -4 and -7. So 4 and -7 is right here. Now, my domain starts right here and then is doing this, and it's going to keep on going because these graphs keep on going here. So this thing is going to keep on going. So the domain of this function will be from -2 all the way to infinity, which is x is greater than -2 for the domain. Okay, the domain is x is greater than or equal to -2. The range starts, is the y value. So if you look, it starts at 4 and then below 4. So therefore, y is less than or equal to 4. That's what the range is. And therefore, the answer should have been D. Does that make sense, everybody? Good. Let's go to the next question. I want you to answer 4 on your own. So try 4 on your own. So for 4, all of you reported A was the right answer. Now, if you f of x minus g of x, well, f of x here from A, it's 5x squared. So let me adjust my pen. So f of x minus g of x. And they want that to give you the 5x squared plus 3x minus 2, which is this one right here. Now, f of x that you choose, if you chose A, f of x is 5x squared minus g of x, which is this. And you have to put that in brackets since you're minusing, so -3x plus 2. And then you have to distribute that negative n, and you're going to get 5x squared plus 3x minus 2, and that's the right answer, yes. Yeah. Now use the table of values, or use this table. What's the value of f g of 0? Yeah. So I'll give you an example. If I say, what's f of g of g of 2, if I say, what does that equal? You have to do g of 2 first. G of 2, you go to that g table, which is here. That means when x is 2, what does y equal? So g of 2 equals 3. So what does this become? That becomes f of 3. Now f of 3, you just go to the f table, find out where x is 3. and then find out what the f of x is, and that equals 4. So that's how you do it. Okay. So now do f of g of 0 for me, please, and tell me what the answer is. What a coincidence. Oh, sorry, I stopped sharing for a second there. I meant to pause the recording. So now, I'm just gonna get rid of this here. The question is, what's f of g of 0? F of g of 0. I gotta do the g of 0 first. G of 0, you go to this here, g of x. So you're gonna go to this table right here. The g of 0 means when x is 0, what does y equal? Y equals -1. So this becomes f. The g of 0 is -1. So the answer for some of you who wrote equals -1, that's not the right answer. Now you're doing f of -1. Now you go to the table here, f of -1. So when x is -1, what does y equal? It equals 4. Or f of x, same thing. So the answer is D. Okay. Now, just gonna give you one more so we make sure that everybody gets them right. G of f of 1. Please do that really quickly and give me your answer. Shouldn't take you a long time. Okay, yeah, take your time, Taha. Okay, don't jump on it very fast. Yeah, your second answer is correct. So all of you got this now. Now let's go to the again, this is preview of Math 12. So I don't want to go into a lot of details. I want you to understand the general idea. So when you take Math 12, Pre-Calc 12 or Advanced Functions 12, and during the semester, you're aware of what's going on, and you could just do much better in the course because you already know the stuff. Now you're just kind of learning even more about it. Okay. So the next question here. The function h of x equals g of f of x is the composite function of f of x equals x squared and g of x equals 1 over x minus 8, which is an explicit equation for h of x. And what are the restrictions on x? So all they want you to do here, find h of x, which is g of f of x. Okay, so if h of x, I'm gonna do something different. If h of x, am I recording? Okay, yeah. If h of x equals g, no, equals f of g of x, then what you're doing, f of g of x, it means f of g of x is this, okay? That's what g of x. So since I'm saying f of g of x, of course, I'm not doing this. I want you to do this yourself. If they're saying f of g of x, then this becomes f of whatever that is. So f of 1 over x minus 8. Okay. And f of 1 over x minus 8, then you have to go to the function f of x here. And so this will equal, instead of x here, you write 1 over x minus 8. Because remember, if I say f of 3, all you're doing, you just sub in 3 for the x here. So 3 squared is 9, and you get 9. If I say f of k, then you just sub in k for the x, and this becomes k squared. If I'm saying f of cat, it's not f of x, they change the x to cat, then I change this x to cat as well, and that becomes cat squared. So f of 1 over x minus 8, you change this x to 1 over x minus 8. And of course, after you change it to 1 over x minus 8, it's squared, so you put square on top of everything here. And the restriction on x here, x cannot equal 8 because that will give me 0 on the bottom. All right, now it's your turn to do this, g of f of x, and tell me the restrictions. So let's check your answers. Both of you answered the same. Both of you had the same choice, which is D. So let's just go and look. Which is an explicit and what are the restrictions? Okay. So if you're doing a g of f of x is x squared, so that's just x squared right here. So this becomes g of x squared. That means you go to the g, instead of saying g of x, now it's saying g of x squared. So you change the x's in the equation, only one x to x squared. So that will equal 1, oops, hold on. Yeah, 1 over, so you just change the x to x squared minus 8. Now we have two choices. So we eliminate this and this because that's not it. Now the bottom here cannot equal 0. So x squared minus 8 cannot equal 0. And x squared cannot equal 8. Algebra. Square root both sides. X cannot equal plus or minus square root of 8, which should be written as 2 root 2. But that's okay. They should have rationalized here. But we'll accept that. So the answer is D. So both of you did really well on this. Okay. For the function, f of x is that and g of x is that. Which expression has the greatest value? Is it f of g of 1, f g of negative 2, and g of f of negative 4? So you just have to work through all of these, do all of these, and then let me know what the answer is. So if I'm doing f of g of 1, I just do g of 1 first. Okay, which is g of 1, you put 1 here for the x, so that's 1 squared minus 3, which is negative 2. And then this becomes f of g of 1, which is f of negative 2 now. And negative 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 3 will give me 1. I'm just subbing the negative 2 for the x here. And maybe let's go through the steps. So you put negative 2 for the, hold on a second. So sorry, hold on. Yeah. So now we put in the negative 2 and the x and the f of x, sorry. So here, so that would be negative 2 for the x and then plus 2, which is 0. Now let me know. So that's 0. Now you do the other B, C, D and tell me which one gave you the greatest value. All right, so go for it, please. This really. So one gave me, I think, I can't remember what one gave us. Let me, the f of, okay. Yeah, so that gave me, we did the g of, hold on a second, where am I? So we're here, we did g of 1, which gives me negative 2, and then when I put it in the f, it gave me 0. And if we do g of negative 2, that means you put in negative 2 for the x and the g of x. So that's negative 2 squared. And make sure you put that in brackets. And that's going to be 4 minus 3, which is 1. So that becomes f of 1, and f of 1, you put in 1 in here, so that gives me 3. So that's B. C, you do f of negative 4. So f of negative 4, you put in g of f of negative 4. So you find f of negative 4 first. So you put it here, so that's negative 4 plus 2, which gives me negative 2. And then you do g of negative 2 for C. G of negative 2, you put in negative 2 in the x here, so that will be negative 2 squared minus 3. And that is negative 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 3 will give me positive 1. So still b is bigger. And this is f of negative 2. So f of negative 2, you just put in the negative 2 in the f. So that if you put in negative 2 for the x in the f of x, that will give me 0. So this will become g of 0. And if I put in 0 here, 0 squared is 0 minus 3 will give me negative 3. So b is the right answer. Okay. Now, C, I'm just going to give you an example. And then I'll get you to do it. They say find f of g of negative 2. What I'm going to do, though, I'm going to try to find the g of f of negative 3, okay? So here you're going to interpolate from the graph. So you go to the f function, and the f function is this. The writing here is a little bit, this is y equals f of x is the parabola, okay? So f of negative 3 on the parabola, you go to where the x is negative 3, which is right here, and then you go down and you hit right there from the negative 3. It's negative 3. And therefore, f of negative 3 will equal, which is this value here, negative 2. So therefore, now this becomes g of negative 2. Yeah. So g of negative 2, you go to where negative 2 is for the x, and then see what the g is. So if you go negative 2 here and you go to this function, which is the g, it gives you negative 3. So g of negative 2 will give you negative 3. Again, since I'm asking you this, the first thing you do is f of negative 3. So you go where x is negative 3, which is right here. And f of x is the parabola. So you just go down till you hit the parabola, and that gave me negative 2. Now, that is negative 2 right here for this. Now this becomes g of negative 2. Now you go to the negative 2 for the x and interpolate, because this is the g of x line right here. So you go down here and you hit right here. So if you go there, it gives you, oops, hold on a second. I got this wrong, isn't it? That's supposed to be negative 3 and not negative 2, sorry. So it's negative 3, because if you go to negative 2 here and you interpolate, that's 1, 2, 3. So it's negative 3. Okay. Now, why don't you try the question that they ask you here and give me your answer, please? So both of you get the answer C. Let's go double check. Okay. So this here says find f of g of negative 2. So let's find g of negative 2 first. So you go to where, again, this is the g function, and this is the f function. So g of negative 2, you go to negative 2 here, and you find out what the g is, sorry. So g of negative 2, when x is negative 2, it's right here in the g. So that is negative 3. So that equals negative 3. Now this becomes f, this function here. G of negative 2, we already found it's negative 3. So we just find f of negative 3. Now you go to the negative 3 right here and you interpolate, and you get this right here. So and the f, because that's the f. So f of negative 3 will be negative 2. Funny, the example I did, it was the opposite. And it was just a coincidence. That's not what I meant. Okay. So let's see if we could do another one. Find f of g of 2. F of g of 2. Can you do that, please? So both of you got right. F of g of 2 is negative 2. So if anybody who's gonna watch this, they could try and get the right answer. Now. Okay. So now, given the function f of x equals 4x plus 10, and g of x is the square root of x plus 2, what's the value of a for which f of g of a equals 10? I think you could do this. So try it first. If you want a hint, ask me, I'll give you the hint. But try it first, see if you could do that on your own, and then I'll explain it to you after. So go for it, try it. I have very smart students in this class, so I'm sure you're going to be able to do it. So both of your answers are the same. So I'm assuming both of you got it right. So f of g of a equals 10. Okay. Let's forget about the 10 for a second here. Okay. Let's forget about the 10 for a second. We're just going to find out what g of a is first. Okay. That's always, you go in the inside here, find out what g of a is. That means you put the a in the x and the g. So that will give me square root of, instead of x, I write a, so a plus 2. And now I do f of g of a, that's what it's saying here, f of g of a, which is f of square root of a plus 2. Yeah. Now, that will give me, you just sub it in the square root of a plus 2 in the x's right here. So that will be 4. And the x, instead of x, you write square root of a plus 2 plus 10. Now, we finished doing this part right here. And now they said all of that here, which we did here, equals 10. So I'm just going to put the 10 right here. Now this 10 and this 10 would cancel, and we'll get 0 equals 4 square root of a plus 2. Now divide both sides by 4, you get 0 equals square root of a plus 2. Square both sides, you get 0 equals a plus 2. Move the 2 to the other side, you get negative 2 equals a. And therefore the answer is C, which is negative 2, and both of you get the same answer. Okay, good job. Now, they gave you f of x and g of x. What's the explicit equation of d of x, which is g of x minus f of x? You're able to do that. And also give me the explicit equation of p of x, which equals f of x times g of x. So just give me both of these answers, and we'll move on after that. Okay, guys, let's see how you did. So for 10 and 11, the first one, g of x minus f of x, that's very easy. G of x, which is x squared plus 2x minus 2 minus f of x. When you're minusing, always put brackets, and you get x plus 3, because you remember the minus is a sign changer. So that becomes x squared plus 2x minus 2 minus x minus 3, which is x squared plus x minus 5. And that is, hold on a second. Oh, it shows B, yes. There we go. P of x equals f of x times g of x. So that's f of x is x minus 4. And g of x is 2x squared minus 3. Now you're going to start foiling. So x times 2x squared is 2x cubed minus 3x minus 8x squared plus 12. And this is, you cannot collect any like terms. You could write this in degree order though, but then we're just gonna look in here and see which one has 2x cubed. Hold on a second, 2x cubed. Hold on a second, did I miss something? Oh, there's a negative here. Sorry, I didn't see that negative, so that's negative. That will change things around a little bit. So x times negative 2x squared is negative 2x cubed, and then minus 3x, and negative 4 times negative 2x, that's going to be plus 8x squared. So it'll be negative 2x cubed plus 8x squared minus 3x plus 12, which is D. Good, good. So just going to erase this. Go to the next page. Now here's the graph of y equals f of x and g of x. Which graph below in the graph of y equals f of x minus g of, is the graph of y equals f of x minus g of x? So what I want you to do now, again, you just do a table of values for the f of x, and let me just make this a little bit bigger, maybe. Yeah, now you could see which one is f of x. This is f of x here. Let me just write that down. The absolute value, this is absolute value function, that's f of x. And this is the g of x. So take your time to graph this. You graph f of x times g of x. Remember, we do x, f, the g, and then f minus the g. Okay. And here you could choose, like, start right from maybe here, you know, and this is going to be continuous because there's no restriction on either domain. Okay, so try this and let me know how you did. So with this question here, and towards the end, your answers didn't agree. So let's see who got it right. Marianne said D. And Taha said C. Okay, so here we go. I chose few points. I don't have to do every point that there is. So for the x, I chose here they're scaling by 2's. So we chose -6. We chose the hold on a second. We chose the -10 first. -10, -6, 0, 6, and 10. Okay, sorry, that's a crooked line right here. The f for that, for -10 was 10. Because they're scaling by 2's here. For the 6, it was 6. For the 0 was 0. For the -6, it was 6. And then for the 6 also was 6. And for the 10 was 10. Okay. For the G, for -6, it gave me -14. For the -10, it was -14. For the -6, it was -10. For the 0, it was -4. Okay. And for the 6, it was 2. And for the 10, it was 6. Now, f minus g, 10 minus -4 here is +24. 6 minus -10 is 16. 0 minus -4 is just +4. 6 minus 2 is 4. 10 minus 6 is 4. So from 0, it became 4. from 0, it became 4. And the only one that has that is this right here. See here, when x is 6, when x is 0, it's 4. When x is 6, it's 4. When x is 10, also gave me 4. Now let's just, when x is -6, what did it give me? When x is -6, it gave me 16, which is matches. So that's what the answer is. Now, Taha, do you understand where you went wrong? Like, you don't have to do it all the points because that will be very lengthy. So do you know where you went wrong? Let me know. So you're good. You understood what happened here. Yeah, good. So I hope. So now I'm just gonna clear all of this. What? So I would like you to try 13 and 14. And then 15 as well, because what we've done so far, you'll be able to answer all these questions. 16 and 17. So I just want you to do these on your own because we already practiced some of these. For the remaining 9 minutes, just try them and give me your answers. So that's like homework, but you're starting now. And the rest of it, if we didn't finish by on time, then just take the rest of it home. But let's try this for the next 9 minutes.